Okay, good afternoon. My name is Dan Alessi. I'm the CEO of Recion Technologies, here with my business partner, Salman Safari, who serves as the CTO. The purpose of Recion in a sentence is to develop processes to extract lithium from alternative sources. And the reason that this is important, apologies, I have this poll in my screen. The reason that this is important is because there's a lithium supply gap on the horizon within the next 5 to 10 years. So if we look at the current market for lithium, it's around $5 billion. If we go out about a decade, that's going to increase by an order of magnitude. And the issue that we face is that the conventional sources that I'll share here in a bit are simply not going to be able to fulfill that supply. And so Recion's point is to have a technology to develop, to recover lithium from alternative sources that would fulfill the supply gap. In terms of conventional sources, there's really two: hard rock mining and evaporation ponds. Both come with issues. The hard rock mining size has high operating expenses. A lot of that is crushing and the processing of the rock itself. That's energy intensive, so it has a high carbon footprint. And really most of this refining of those mining products happens in one country, just China. Evaporation ponds have different challenges. They have a high capex. A lot of that really is upfront in the construction of the ponds themselves. You can only do this evaporation process in dry and arid regions where there's plenty of sunlight. The process takes many months, up to a year and a half. You're looking at a relatively inefficient process, and it can only work on brines that are rich resources, so typically above 500 parts per million. The challenge that Recion is addressing is, again, this demand in lithium that we have coming out in a decade or so from now. And in particular, that supply gap needs to be filled by resources that are not of higher grade as the ones that are in the solar deposits that are 500 parts per million or higher, or in the hard rock deposits. If we look in Western Canada alone, the resource size is perhaps $50 billion in unconventional brines below the ground here. If we look worldwide, that number would be a lot bigger. But again, the only way to access these relatively low-grade resources are very selective processes to recover the lithium. And among the most promising is what are called DLE, or direct lithium extraction processes. And this essentially is the purpose of Recion. We focus on this technology piece, filling in that gap so that junior miners and other operators that have these sorts of resources can extract them economically. So here's our process in a nutshell. Again, we have a brine that's fairly low grade, and it has a lot of impurities, and you want to strip out that bit of lithium and concentrate it and purify it. And that's what Recion does. So we would have a process on site where we take in that brine, we extract the lithium, we concentrate it into a much higher concentration fluid, and that fluid would then go off for post-polishing and production of salts that would be shipped off to battery manufacturers for the production of batteries. Our competitive advantage is really know-how, experience, and our intellectual property. So Salman and I developed the base technology for E3 Metals down in Calgary. They're probably the biggest startup lithium junior miner in Canada. Their market cap varies between about 100 and 200 million, and they've raised about 15 million based on our base technology that we developed here in Edmonton. Our process as well, it's patent pending. So we have filed a patent, a process patent. It's efficient. The sorbent is robust. So we've undergone extended testing on our material. It's competitive in that it's a low energy product. So the on-site demands for energy are going to be low, making it more sustainable. And again, the big problem we're addressing is that we need to access resources that are lower grade. And that's exactly what this technology does. It opens up a lot of resources that otherwise would not be economic. When we look at a technology, so comparing to competitors, there's really 4 metrics you want to hit if you're a technology provider in this space. Highly selective for lithium, I described that again. So exclude all the other stuff, only pull out the lithium out of these fluids. The material that you're using to strip out the lithium has to be robust. And again, that knowledge comes through extended testing, which we've done. Does it have a small footprint? So if you're going to build a plant on site, is that plant going to be large or small? And that gets into the capex of the project, obviously. And finally, the product going out the door, the lithium concentrate or the salt, is that of high purity so that it can be sold to battery manufacturers. And Recion checks the marks on all 4 of these metrics. Where are we in terms of business model? Recion was founded in late 2019, so we're about 2 years into our life as a company. We've completed most of the benchtop testing. Some of that goes on in terms of R&D, but we've recently scaled up to what's called a lab pilot. So our nominal volume, we can process about 1,000 liters per day. And we're in the process now, and you can see Q3 2022 there, we're having what's called a field prototype developed by a professional engineering firm here in town that could be moved out to site. And that will process a significantly larger volume. I'll talk about the raise here in a bit, but we're looking for a raise to essentially move that into a facility and operate it to do some testing before we move into the next stage, which is called the pilot module. So the next steps for us here, once we test this field prototype that's being constructed, are building a full-size module on site. And the advantage in terms of our technology is it's highly modular. So once we prove out this single module on a partner site, we would simply add modules depending on the size of the site. In other words, the brine volumes that are being processed at that particular location, and that's the commercialization process here. Clients, we're working right now with Morella Corporation. They're based out of Perth, Australia, formerly known as Altura. They have an asset in the United States that we're working on. And that testing we have an agreement signed for it, and we hope to scale up in the field with them. 3 other junior lithium miners we're in serious conversations with a testing schedule for early this year, and several other companies that we've initiated conversations with, and we're waiting on decisions. The capital structure of our company is pretty simple at this point. The founders own all the shares, so that's Salman and myself. This will be our first raise. Revenue, we have done significant amount of testing and other services, so about 125,000 over the past 2 years, and the balance up to the total about $500,000 comes from grants. As you can see there, about another 350,000. The team, I think, is a strength here. My expertise is in aqueous chemistry, so I understand the surface chemistry of materials. I've worked with a lot of companies on the sustainability of their water processes, and I have a lot of experience in the field of water resources. Salman is a chemical engineer, so quite complementary to my skill set, but he has quite a bit more experience on developing water treatment processes. And he's really been on the ground in developing our particular lithium extraction processes and the challenges and details of engineering those processes. The asking is $500,000, and in a nutshell, this will allow us to rent the space we need to operate this field prototype, collect the data that we need in anticipation of moving out into the field with the field pilot, and ultimately to commercialization with a partner. So I'll stop there. Happy to take questions if there's any, Michael.
Okay, thanks. Great talk. And Christy's also welcome to chair. Her video isn't working very well today. She's got a new computer, but in any case, she's also welcome to ask questions. Just wondering about the patent. Is it owned by the university, or is it owned by the company?
No, it's by the company. So, I see you gathered that we did some of this work at the University of Alberta. Recion is completely separate from the university now. And so the patent that we filed is a process patent that's entirely Recion's IP.
Oh, great. And have you been able to take advantage of grants like NSERC, I2Is, or others to try and do the commercialization, or have you done the initial stage all on your own dollar then?
No, it's been through, well, we had, as you see, we have some revenue from testing services and other consulting work. But the rest is from grant money, and the big sources have been Alberta Innovates. We've had MyTax funding, and we've had IRAP has internships, so we've leveraged that, and we're constantly, as part of our business plan, we're looking to leverage money as well. The ask here, that $500,000 ask, is really because we're moving quickly. This is a space that's moving quickly, and we need to get out in the field, I think, as quickly as possible. So as part of this ask, is if we get revenue, obviously we would look to leverage that revenue towards further grants through the federal, provincial government. But we're making this ask so that we can keep to this tight timeline with our partners and actually get to commercialization here in a reasonable.
Terrific. If there's any other questions, feel free to ask. Otherwise, I'll just keep asking. We have maybe 30 seconds just about competition. How does the competition look in this technology and in this space, and as well as the larger companies that you're possibly looking to partner with in terms of doing some of the field work?
Yeah, that's a lot. I mean, the space is getting more and more crowded by the day, which is why we're trying to move quickly. Again, major competitor head to head would be Lilac. They're fairly far along, and they are one of the major, I would say, disadvantages there is that they're quite expensive. So they're, engaging them as a junior lithium miner is quite expensive. And so one of the spaces we're trying to fill here is, a technology that's well developed and tested, but has an entry level sort of testing pricing that's reasonable for some of these junior miners.
All right.
In terms of engagement, yeah, it could be anywhere from we've engaged very small companies up to, a company like Morella or bigger is certainly possible.